First contact through fear. The quarantine beacons surrounding Sol's system had served their purpose for 3 centuries. Their message was simple yet effective. Danger, death world, do not approach. Most spacefaring species respected these warnings, having learned long ago that planets marked with such designations harbored either lethal environments or equally lethal inhabitants. In this case, both were true. But desperation has a way of overwhelming even the most ingrained caution. The Vethri ship emerged from Fold Space well within the beacon perimeter, its crystalline hull pulsing with failing biolights. Inside, First Speaker Naira pressed her 4-fingered hand against the navigation console, her silvery skin reflecting the emergency lighting that bathed the bridge in crimson. The ship's biological systems were deteriorating rapidly, just like her people. Life support at 30% capacity, announced Second Speaker Kral, his voice barely a whisper. The spores are accelerating their consumption rate. Naira closed her inner eyelids, fighting back waves of despair. The Vethri had always prided themselves on their biological technology, their living ships and cities that grew from carefully cultivated crystal seed templates. Now that very technology was being turned against them by an enemy that they couldn't even name. "Begin transmission," she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. "Broadcast on all frequencies." The message they'd prepared was concise, encoded with universal mathematical constants that any advanced civilization would recognize. To the inhabitants of Sol's system, we break quarantine out of desperate need. Our civilization faces extinction from an engineered biological weapon. Our research shows your species has survived multiple extinction-level pandemic events. We seek your aid in exchange for all our technological knowledge. Please respond. Hours passed in tense silence. The ship's systems continued to degrade, mirroring the fate of the Vethri colonies they'd left behind. Billions were already in stasis, their bodies slowly being consumed by the inexorable spread of the weapon that had been unleashed upon them. First Speaker, Kral's voice cut through her dark thoughts. "We're detecting something." The ship's sensors, though failing, picked up the approach of several objects moving at impossible speeds. They seemed to flicker in and out of normal space, somehow masking their true mass and energy signatures. A transmission cut through their communication system, carried on frequencies the Vethri had never encountered before. The voice that spoke was eerily calm, yet carried undertones that made Naira's crystalline bones resonate with ancient instincts of prey recognizing predator. "Vethri vessel, this is Dr. Sarah Chen of the Earth Biological Defense Force. We've received your transmission and analyzed the partial data you included about the pathogen affecting your people. Hold position. Do not attempt to move closer to Earth. We are coming to you." The objects resolved themselves into ships, if they could be called that. Unlike the elegant crystalline designs of the Vethri or the metal constructions of other known species, these vessels seemed to be hybrid creations. Their hulls rippled with what appeared to be engineered muscle tissue overlaid with metallic scales, more like living creatures than constructed vessels. "We're being scanned," Krull reported, his voice tinged with awe. "They're sensors. They're reading our entire biological structure down to the molecular level. I've never seen anything like this." The human voice returned. "We've confirmed the presence of the pathogen. Your ship's quarantine protocols are insufficient. Preparing for emergency intervention. Please do not be alarmed by what you're about to see." Through the bridge's viewing crystal, Naira watched as the nearest human ship extended what looked like a tendril of living metal. As it touched their hull, instead of the expected breach alarms, their ship's biological systems suddenly stabilized. "The spores," Krell exclaimed, checking his readings. "They're dying. The humans, they've introduced some kind of counteragent through our own ship's biological matrix." A new voice joined the transmission, deeper and carrying the weight of authority. "This is Admiral James Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We're deploying our medical fleet to your colonies as we speak. The counteragent we've provided will stabilize your ship's systems and protect your crew. but your people will need more comprehensive treatment. Naira found her voice. You can help us. Just like that. There was a pause before Dr. Chen responded, and Naira could have sworn she heard something like dark amusement in the human's voice. First speaker, your people aren't the first to try to engineer biological weapons, and you won't be the last. But there's a reason Earth was marked as a death world. Everything on our planet has been trying to kill us since we first evolved. We've survived thousands of plagues, adapted to countless toxins, and engineered ourselves to withstand conditions that would kill most species instantly. In short, we've spent our entire history preparing for exactly this kind of situation. As if to emphasize this point, Naira watched a human shuttle dock with their ship. The beings that emerged wore no protective gear despite the lethal spores still present in trace amounts. Their bodies seemed to ripple subtly beneath their skin, and their eyes held an intelligence that spoke of extensive genetic engineering. The Vethri had just made first contact with humanity, breaking a quarantine that had stood for centuries. But as Naira watched the humans effortlessly neutralize a weapon that had brought her civilization to its knees, she understood why Earth had been labeled a death world. It wasn't to protect space-faring species from humanity. It was to protect them from finding out just how terrifying humanity could be when it wanted to help. The Silent Guardians. The Earth Defense Council chamber looked nothing like Naira had imagined. Instead of the sterile metal and plastic she'd seen in recovered footage of human habitats, the room appeared to be alive. Walls pulsed with engineered bioluminescence, and the air itself seemed to analyze and adapt to her biological needs with each breath. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the assembled council, her augmented eyes shifting color as she projected data directly from her neural interface. The weapon targeting the Vethri is unlike anything we've encountered in our surveillance of the galaxy. It's not just destroying their technology. It's attempting to rewrite their entire biological foundation. The council members' reactions were subtle but visible to Naira's sensitive crystal spectrum vision. Micro-expressions and pheromone shifts that would have been imperceptible to most species told a story of controlled anger. "Show us," commanded Council Leader Rodriguez, her skin rippling with chromatophores that betrayed her otherwise calm demeanor. The chamber's air darkened and filled with three-dimensional molecular structures. Naira recognized them as the spores that had devastated her people, but the level of detail in the human analysis was staggering. They had mapped not just the weapon's current form, but its predicted mutations and evolutionary pathways. Whoever engineered this, Sarah continued, knew exactly what they were doing. It's designed specifically for crystalline-based life forms. The Vethri weren't randomly targeted. They were hunted. Admiral James Chen, Sarah's brother, and the commander who had first responded to the Vethri distress call, stepped forward. Like all humans Naira had observed, his body was a testament to centuries of careful biological engineering. Muscles moved with impossible efficiency, and his neural augments were so advanced they were practically a new organ system. "We've been monitoring galactic communications for the past 300 years, James explained, bringing up a new display showing countless transmission intercepts. We knew something like this was coming. The galaxy's biological arms race has been accelerating. But this," he gestured to the spore models, "this is different. It's too perfect, too precise. The question," Council Leader Rodriguez interjected, "is whether we're ready to reveal ourselves fully. The quarantine beacons have served us well. They've given us time to perfect our adaptations to become what we needed to be." Naira couldn't remain silent any longer. "You've been watching all this time. You knew about the other species, the conflicts, the technological developments." Sarah turned to her, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. First speaker, "Humanity learned long ago that knowledge is survival. While the rest of the galaxy saw our quarantine beacons and assumed we were primitive or hostile, we were studying, learning, adapting. Every transmission, every battle, every technological breakthrough. We observed it all." The display shifted to show something that made Naira's inner cores pulse with shock. detailed scans of every major civilization's biological and technological capabilities, including several species she hadn't known existed. Your people weren't the first to approach Earth in desperation, James added, but you were the first whose need outweighed our desire for secrecy. The weapon targeting you, it's just the beginning. Someone out there is testing something much bigger. Council leader Rodriguez stood, her augmented height impressive even by human standards. First speaker Naira, what you're about to see has never been revealed to any non-Earth species. Show her the fortress. The chamber's display shifted again, and Naira felt her crystalline structure vibrate with awe. Earth's solar system was not just quarantined. It was transformed. Massive biological constructs orbited every planet, some as large as small moons. They pulsed with the same engineered life that she'd seen in the human ships and buildings. While the galaxy thought we were hiding, Sarah explained, we were building. Every plague that tried to kill us became a tool. Every poison became a potential adaptation. We took our planet's deadliest aspects and made them part of ourselves. These stations, James continued, are just the outer layer. Earth itself, well, let's just say there's a reason we're called a death world. Our entire planet is now effectively one giant biological research and development facility. Every human is connected to a neural network that spans the solar system, processing and analyzing galactic data in real time. Naira understood now. The quarantine hadn't been about keeping others out. It had been about giving humanity time to become something entirely new. The beings standing before her were no longer just the inhabitants of a death world. They had become its masters, turning every lethal aspect of their environment into an advantage. We've seen enough, Rodriguez declared. The weapon attacking your people isn't just a threat to the Vethri. It's the first move in what could become a galactic biological war. Humanity has prepared for this moment for centuries. She turned to Naira, her augmented eyes gleaming. The question is, first speaker, are your people ready to learn what it truly means to ally with a death world? As Naira looked around the living chamber, at the beings who had mastered both biology and technology in ways her people had never imagined, she realized the true meaning of Earth's quarantine warning. It hadn't been meant to protect the galaxy from humanity. It had been meant to protect humanity's secrets until they were ready to share them. Operation Lifeline. The medical fleet that emerged from fold space above the Vethri homeworld defied conventional understanding of biology and technology. Each vessel was a unique hybrid organism, their hulls comprised of engineered tissue that could adapt to any environment. At their head, the flagship Genesis pulsed with patterns of bioluminescence that spoke of barely contained power. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on Genesis's living bridge, her augmented nervous system directly interfacing with the ship's biological systems. Around her, the elite medical team she'd assembled represented the pinnacle of human biological engineering. Each specialist was essentially a walking medical laboratory, their bodies hosting colonies of engineered microorganisms that could be modified and deployed on demand. First wave analysis complete, announced Dr. Raj Patel, his skin shifting color as his body processed the atmospheric data. The spores have infected approximately 82% of the planet's biosphere. They're not just attacking the Vethri. They're reshaping the entire ecosystem. Sarah nodded, watching as the ship's sensors mapped the spread of infection across the crystalline cities below. The Vethri's biological architecture, once a testament to their mastery of crystal-based life, was now their greatest vulnerability. The weapon wasn't just killing them. It was turning their own technology against them. Deploy the primary countermeasure, she ordered. Full spectrum approach. The medical fleet moved into formation, their engineered hulls beginning to secrete a fine mist into the atmosphere. This wasn't just medicine. It was the distilled essence of humanity's brutal evolutionary history. Each droplet contained modified versions of Earth's most resilient organisms, carefully engineered to target and neutralize the weapon while preserving the Vethri's unique biology. On the surface, teams of human medical specialists began moving through the crystalline cities. They needed no protective gear. Their bodies were already more hostile environments than anything the weapon could produce. Each specialist carried within them billions of engineered organisms, their own immune systems serving as incubators for the cures they were developing in real time. Dr. Chen called out Lieutenant Maria Santos, her eyes glowing as she processed data from her field team. "We're seeing something unexpected in the infection pattern. The weapon, it's learning, adapting to our countermeasures faster than predicted." Sarah's augmented mind raced through the implications. It's not just a weapon, she realized. It's a test. Whoever created this wants to see how we'll respond. She opened a direct neural link to the fleet. All units switch to adaptive response protocols. Release the Lazarus strain. The Lazarus strain was something uniquely human, a biological system based on humanity's experience with their own planet's deadliest pathogens. It didn't just fight the infection, it rewrote the rules of the biological battlefield itself. In the crystalline chambers where thousands of Vethri lay in stasis, the first signs of recovery began to appear. The weapon's spores, encountering organisms engineered from Earth's most extreme environments, found themselves against something they couldn't adapt to fast enough. Human medical specialists watched through augmented eyes as their engineered helpers began not just neutralizing the weapon, but transforming it into part of the cure. "This is fascinating," Dr. Patil observed, his body processing real-time data from the field. "The weapon's adaptive capability. It's actually making our countermeasures more effective. It's trying so hard to evolve that it's incorporating our engineered traits into itself." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. This was why humanity had spent centuries preparing, why they had turned their own lethal planet into an advantage. Earth had taught them that survival wasn't just about resistance, it was about adaptation. In the highest towers of the Vethri capital, First Speaker Nera watched in amazement as her people began to awaken from stasis. The humans moved through her city with the confidence of beings who had mastered death itself, their bodies hosting microscopic armies that were rewriting the rules of biological warfare. "Your people," she said to Sarah, her crystal form vibrating with emotion. "You don't just heal, you transform." "We had to," Sarah replied, her eyes tracking the spread of the cure through the city's living architecture. "Earth never gave us a choice. Everything on our planet was lethal. The microbes, the plants, the animals, even the air itself. We survived by learning to turn every threat into an opportunity." But even as the cure spread and the Vethri began to recover, Sarah's enhanced senses detected something troubling in the weapon's code. This attack hadn't been meant to destroy the Vethri. It had been meant to provoke exactly this response from humanity. Someone out there had just learned exactly what humanity was capable of, and Sarah had a feeling they would be meeting them very soon. The hunt begins. Admiral James Chen stood in the Neural Command Center of the EDF Hunter, a specialized pursuit vessel that represented the apex of human biomechanical engineering. The ship's living walls pulsed with activity as it processed data from thousands of sources across the galaxy, searching for the signature of the weapon's creators. "They left breadcrumbs," Sarah's hologram noted, her image projected from the Genesis medical ship still orbiting the Vethri homeworld. "The weapon's genetic structure contains markers, like a signature. They wanted us to be able to trace it." James nodded, his augmented mind connecting directly with the ship's biological computers. The Hunter's sensor systems were unique, combining traditional scanning technology with engineered organisms that could detect the slightest traces of biological manipulation across vast distances. "We've identified 3 possible points of origin," reported Commander Maya Rodriguez, her skin rippling as her body's enhanced sensory organs processed the incoming data. "All of them in regions of space that nobody goes near. Dead zones." The term dead zones had taken on new meaning since humanity's emergence. These weren't just empty regions of space. They were areas where entire civilizations had seemingly vanished, leaving behind only silence and mystery. "Show me," James commanded, and the command center filled with a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. The dead zones pulsed with an ominous red light, each one representing billions of cubic light-years of empty space where life should have thrived. "There's a pattern," Maya observed, her augmented vision catching details that even the ship's computers might miss. "These zones, they're not random. They form a perfect geometric pattern when mapped in four-dimensional spacetime." James felt his enhanced adrenal glands respond to the implications. "They're not dead zones," he realized. "They're incubation chambers. Someone's been using entire regions of space as laboratories." The hunter's biological systems hummed with increased activity as it processed this revelation. The ship itself seemed to understand the gravity of their discovery, its engineered nervous system responding to the crew's heightened state of alertness. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Jack Foster, his eyes glowing as he received data from the ship's long-range biosensors. "We're detecting something at the edge of the nearest dead zone. It's like looking into a mirror." The sensors revealed a massive structure, unlike anything they'd seen before. It appeared to be both biological and mechanical, much like human technology, but taken to an extreme that even Earth's engineers hadn't imagined. The structure was actively transforming the space around it, creating an environment that defied normal physics. "They've been watching us," Sarah's hologram said quietly. "All this time, while we were observing the galaxy, someone was observing us, learning from us." James felt a chill despite his body's perfect environmental adaptation. "The weapon wasn't just a test of our capabilities," he said. "It was an invitation." As if in response to his words, the hunter's communication system detected a transmission emanating from the structure. It came through on frequencies that only human biotech could detect, encoded in a way that spoke of intimate knowledge of Earth's technological evolution. The message was simple. "Welcome, children of Earth. We've been waiting for you to join us." "It's a trap," Maya stated, her enhanced combat instincts firing. But James noticed something in the transmission structure that gave him pause. "No," he said, his augmented mind analyzing patterns too complex for standard computers to detect. "It's a graduation test. Someone out there has been guiding humanity's development from the shadows. The quarantine beacons, the isolation, the challenges we faced, they weren't random." Sarah's hologram flickered as she processed this information. "The weapon targeting the Vethri, it wasn't designed to kill them. It was designed to force us to demonstrate our mastery of biological engineering. To prove we were ready." "Ready for what?" Maya asked, her hand unconsciously moving to the bioweapon synthesizer grafted into her nervous system. Before anyone could respond, the hunter's sensors detected movement. The structure was changing, unfolding like a massive organic flower. As it opened, they caught glimpses of technology that seemed to unite all the principles humanity had discovered independently, the perfect fusion of biological and mechanical engineering. "Send word to Earth," James ordered, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were facing. "Tell them we found our teachers. And maybe our creators." The hunter's biological systems pulsed with anticipation as they prepared to enter the dead zone. Humanity had spent centuries evolving on their death world, mastering biological engineering out of necessity. Now they were about to discover that perhaps none of it had been an accident. They were about to meet the beings who had turned Earth into the perfect crucible for creating something new. The question was, what did these entities want with their creations now that they had passed the test? Legacy of the Dithworlders. The being that emerged from the structure defied conventional biology. It existed simultaneously as organic matter and energy, its form shifting between states in a way that even humanity's advanced sensors struggled to track. When it spoke, its words resonated directly in their enhanced minds. "We are the architects," it communicated. "We have watched your evolution with great interest, children of Earth." Admiral James Chen stood his ground, his augmented body ready for any possibility. Around him, the hunter's biological systems hummed with barely contained power. Dr. Sarah, Chen's hologram flickered beside him, her consciousness linked across space to observe this historic moment. "You engineered Earth," Sarah stated, her enhanced mind piecing together centuries of evolutionary data. Our planet's extreme conditions, the constant biological warfare, the toxic atmosphere. It wasn't natural. The architect's form rippled with what might have been appreciation. Earth was our greatest achievement, a forged world designed to create beings capable of surviving anything. But you exceeded our expectations. Images filled their minds. Earth as it had been before the architect's intervention, a peaceful world much like any other. They watched as it was systematically transformed into a death world, its biology weaponized to create the perfect evolutionary pressure cooker. Why? James demanded. Why put humanity through millennia of struggle? Because the galaxy is dying, the architect responded. What you call dead zones are the result of a cosmic plague that has been spreading for millions of years. We have fought it across countless galaxies, but it adapts faster than we can respond. We needed something new, something that could evolve as quickly as the plague itself. Understanding dawned in Sarah's enhanced consciousness, the weapon that attacked the Vethri. It was a sample of this plague, wasn't it? You wanted to see how we would handle it. And you did more than handle it, the architect confirmed. You turned it into a cure. In days, you accomplished what took us centuries. Your biological mastery, born from surviving Earth's engineered challenges, makes you unique in all our centuries of searching. The hunter's sensors detected movement throughout the structure. More architects were emerging, their forms each unique, but sharing the same impossible biology. They had been waiting, watching humanity's response to their test. But we didn't just survive Earth, James realized, his augmented mind racing ahead. We mastered it, turned every poison into a tool, every pathogen into an advantage. That wasn't part of your plan, was it? A ripple of what felt like amusement passed through the gathered architects. No, we designed Earth to create survivors. Instead, it created innovators. Your species didn't just adapt to overcome threats. You learned to reshape biology itself. You became something entirely new. Suddenly, the dead zone around them came alive with activity. The hunter's sensors revealed thousands of dormant biological research stations, each containing samples of the cosmic plague that threatened the galaxy. The architects had been conducting their own experiments here, trying to find a solution. We offer you a choice, the architect continued. Join us as equals in our fight against the plague. Your unique understanding of biological adaptation, combined with our ancient knowledge, might be the galaxy's last hope. Sarah's hologram turned to her brother. Everything we've developed, every adaptation we've engineered, it was all preparing us for this moment. James felt the weight of the decision. Humanity had spent centuries in isolation, perfecting their mastery over biology and technology. Now they were being offered a chance to use that knowledge to save not just one species, but entire galaxies. There's something you should know, he told the architects, his enhanced body radiating confidence. We've already started. The countermeasure we used on the Vethri world, it wasn't just a cure for your weapon. It was a prototype for something bigger. We've been preparing to tackle galaxy-wide biological threats since we first detected signs of the plague in our long-range scans. The architects' forms pulsed with surprise. Their test subjects had become something more than they had anticipated. Humanity hadn't just survived their engineered evolution. They had surpassed their creators. Then perhaps, the architect responded, we are not your teachers after all. Perhaps we are simply the ones who helped you discover your true potential. As the hunter's crew prepared to begin sharing their biological engineering breakthroughs with the architects, James reflected on humanity's journey. They had emerged from their death world not just as survivors, but as masters of life itself. The quarantine that had kept them isolated had given them time to perfect their skills, to become something unprecedented in the galaxy. Earth was no longer just a death world. It was the birthplace of a species that had learned to make death itself bow to their will. And now they would use that power to ensure life itself had a future in the galaxy. The legacy of the Deathworlders would not be one of destruction, but of creation. Humanity would reshape the galaxy not through force, but through their mastery of life itself. They had become exactly what the galaxy needed, not conquerors, but healers who could face any threat and adapt. The cosmic play had finally met its match in the children of Earth, the species that had turned survival into an art form.